What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Coach's Corner. I'm your host, Dan Federico, and this week joining me is our Associate AD and head men's baseball coach, John Muller. Coach, how you doing, man?
How you guys doing?
We always like to start this conversation off with the elephant in the room. So we are back on campus, thankfully, but we've been in quarantine for a long time. How was that situation for you, and how'd you handle it?
Yeah, really back in my office. I'm excited to be back. It was obviously it's unfortunate, everything that happened, but being able to stay home with my wife and my son was pretty cool experience. Spending a lot of time with them, but it's also, you'd think it'd be a little bit easier to get work done at home, but I find it a little bit more difficult. I like being on campus. I like being around everybody, especially when the students are on campus. But it's good to be back. I'm really excited, and I'm looking forward to having everybody back in the fall.
I agree. Same sentiments here, too. Glad to be back and excited to get things going again. But speaking of quarantine, as of course your whole team was dealt with the same situation we all did. Unfortunately, the season was cut short. Their spring semester was cut short. They had to go back home really early on. So one question I did want to ask was how they handled it. But, we have to bring up, you guys had a 3.41 GPA spring semester. Your Instagram page was showing everybody pretty much doing different kinds of workouts. So how did you stay on top of everybody and just make sure everybody was doing well despite being, separated from each other?
Well, our goals and our culture and, our beliefs never really changed. We tried to stay to, what we do while we're here on campus. We talked about being flexible, being open-minded, and thinking outside the box to try to create workouts and find different ways to work on your baseball skills, your physical skills, and obviously your academics. We met quite frequently as a team to discuss various things, workouts. We did team projects, group projects where we were watching video and evaluating videos and doing things like that. I gave the guys different workouts, position-specific workouts to do on the baseball end of things, and they already had our workout. The workout that they're given at the start of every year, it carries on throughout the year. So where I can't hold them accountable for things, they're really, really good at holding each other accountable and doing things together. And like I said, the culture has been really, really good. We got a great group of guys here, and it even carried on after the season ended. I know that they were doing group phone calls and doing different things when I couldn't get involved, which is really great to hear. And now that I am allowed to talk to them, since the rules have opened up a little bit more, I've got to hear all the great things that they're doing. But I think, I don't think they missed a beat with it. It was very unfortunate. I know, we were moving in the right direction. Things were going pretty well, and I think we had high expectations for the year. But they dominated in the classroom. They did great, on campus, doing the right thing. And then when the COVID happened, they did everything they possibly could to be the best versions of themselves. That's what we want.
Awesome. And something with culture and expectations is something I do want to touch on. But before we talk about your team and your experiences at the College of Mount St. Vincent, let's learn a little bit more about you. You did have a very extensive playing career. A lot of people do know that. But for those who don't know, what was your upbringing in the game? How far did you make it? And what were your playing days like?
Went to Mayapack High School. I played baseball there. I grew up in Mayapack, played baseball there my whole life, obviously. Went to Mayapack High School, had a decent high school career. I was probably, I was good. I worked really hard. I try to preach. I try to practice. I practice what I preach. All the things I'm expecting the guys to do. I tell them all the time, I wouldn't ask you to do something that I wouldn't do, or I wouldn't push you to do something that I wouldn't do or wouldn't attempt to do.
Of course.
But I'd say, I had a good high school career. I did well, won a couple awards, had the opportunity to go play college baseball at Stack, took that opportunity, went on to Stack, started as a freshman. I started every single game my whole career. I had a really successful career there, bouncing back and forth between shortstop and third base. Broke a bunch of records offensively. Started pitching a little bit my junior year. Started coming into the bullpen and closing games, or when the games were close, I'd pitch a little bit. Turned into, kind of a really good role my senior year, doing more of it, and began getting a lot of interest from professional baseball teams my sophomore year of college. And it just progressed and got more and more interest as time went on, all the way to my senior year. Ended up filling out a lot of information for the various teams. I think I was talking to, 18 or 15 teams, something like that. After my last game of college back in 2007, you were allowed to sign as a free agent before the draft if you were eligible. There was like a thing called the draft and follow, and then there was, a 50-year senior sign. There was a bunch of different things that you could do to forego the draft. And the Cubs had called me following my last game. Basically, I played my last game. We had graduation 2 days later.
Wow.
And then the draft was about 3 or 4 weeks away. So I was excited for the draft. I was pretty confident I was going to get drafted, pretty decent, in a decent spot. So I was pretty fired up about that. But the Cubs called me following my last game, and they offered me a contract to come in and sign immediately. So skip the draft, sign the contract, graduate the next day, fly to Arizona the next day.
Wow.
So I called a bunch of different people. I didn't have an agent at the time. I ended up signing with an agent after the whole process, but I wanted to play professional baseball. This was a guaranteed thing. I didn't have to wait. They were going to give me an opportunity to do a lot of different things and give me an opportunity if things didn't work out to pitch, which I was very interested in. Got that opportunity, signed the contract, graduated the next day, flew to Arizona the next day to extended spring training with, obviously the rookies and stuff from last year. Went in, they turned me into a pitcher rather quickly. I had a lot of success in that first 3 or 4 weeks before the draft happened. Then they sent me to A-ball with all the draft picks. It was different because I hadn't really pitched. I probably threw about 18 innings my whole entire life.
Wow.
At that point. So I'm learning how to pitch against the best in the world. But it was a blast. I ended up doing really, really well for all my years with the Cubs, and then my years in independent baseball. I played professional baseball for 5.5 years. I was an all-star, I think, for 4 of them. I did well. Statistically, I did all right, and then I had an injury, obviously, that sidelined me for 1 year after the all-star break. And then I came back, and it ended up, biting me in the butt that I came back too quick. But I got to live my dream. I got to do a lot of things. I got to pitch it for the Boulders. The first year they had the Boulders over in Rockland, which was cool because my parents got to see me play. I did some stuff there. I think I still have the strikeout record there for a game. They let me start, which I've never done before either. I was always a closer. But overall, my baseball career as a player, it was fun. It was a dream come true, but it took a lot of work. It took a lot of effort. I wasn't one of the guys that you would see in high school and say, all right, that guy's going to be playing professional baseball someday. Or even when I got to college, my freshman year, no one would have said, all right, that guy is going to play professional baseball someday. It took a lot of effort. It was challenging, but, every day I would think about other people that were trying to outwork me, and I wouldn't let it happen, and I think, it pays dividends, and it helps you progress in life. And I think that's what we're trying to get here with some of the guys we have.
Gotcha. So that's always a great mindset to have. And I feel like because you did have that mindset, you were able to check off a lot of boxes as a player. You did a lot of things that people, can never say they ever accomplished. So that's awesome on a personal level. But at the same time, what made you then want to become a coach? Was it a post, you just wanted to stay involved in the game, or did you always have that in mind when you were playing, or what was that process like of eventually getting on a coaching staff and becoming a head coach?
I always knew I wanted to be a coach. Probably from, I'd say from college on. When I got to at some point in college, it clicked in my head that, this is something I wanted to do. But even at a younger age, I think being that type of guy, and this is something, I've actually started to see it a lot now that I'm on the coaching end of things, but being the type of guy that had to work really hard to be successful and to reach and achieve the things that I had to do the things that I needed to do to get to where I got to. where it wasn't just given to me, or I wasn't just the best player just showing up. I think that helped me as a coach because I always had to listen. I always had to learn. Everything that was given out to me or spoken to me or whatever, I saved. And I was always eyes locked in, listening to everything that everybody had to say, whether I agreed or disagreed. It's something I wish I would have done a little bit better in school, as when I was in high school. But like I said, I figured it out a little bit better in college. I was always picking things up and trying to do different things and to advance myself. And I was learning different ways from different people, and I saved everything, even from the Cubs and all the minor league teams I played for. And, even my assistant coaching time at Stack, I save a lot of the things that, we went over, or that we discussed, and different things that I can, I always knew I wanted to use later. But for me, it became a passion. It's kind of a dual role. I think for me, the most important thing is obviously we're developing, the student athlete, the person first, to be a leader, to be successful in life. And I think I really, really enjoy that part of it, helping guys become successful in not just baseball, but everything else that's going on around them. And I enjoy seeing guys having success and going out and doing some great things, on the field, off the field, but when they graduate, it's pretty cool too. I now that I've been doing this for about 7 years in the college game, a lot of my guys now have jobs, they're doing things. I still have good relationships with them. So it's really good to get feedback when they say, hey, you know what, you pushed this really hard, you did all these things, but look at what I'm doing now, look at all the success I'm having. So I think, like I said, going back to your question, I think it's a little long-winded, but I figured it out in college that I wanted to do it, and it's a passion of mine. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. I feel like I haven't worked a day in my life, to be honest with you.
That's always a great mindset to have. I mean, that's the dream right there. So now you're here. You got hired in 2016, correct? That was in the winter of 2016, or what was that situation like coming here?
I was hired, right, 16, 17, 18, 19, maybe 17. It was whatever it was 4 years ago from here. This would have been my fourth season.
So no, gotcha. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So, it was in July or early August. So, I missed the whole recruiting class. There were a handful of guys that were committed to come in, but I kind of started right when the school year started up.
Okay, cool. So, like you said, 4 years now. I've been here about the same amount of time, so I've kind of seen the growth of this baseball program. And I don't think I've ever told you this, but I get asked a lot around campus about different teams, how they're doing. And one thing that I feel like always sticks out to me personally is that, granted, yes, we're a D3 program, we're building, but you always have your team running like it's D1. Like, they're very regimented. The workouts are very, everything's very planned out. Everybody's wearing matching stuff. I mean, it goes down to very little details. One question I have for you when thinking about that is, how do you get your guys to buy in despite, it being a D3 level and, the opportunities may not be ones that you were able to reach as a player? How do you get your team to kind of still work like that?
Well, first off, when I'm recruiting them all, when I'm bringing everybody in, that's kind of what I'm selling here. The way I always say to our guys, I know, this is in Florida State. Right. And I'm sure everybody wants to go play baseball at Florida State. Who wouldn't want that? But this is ours. This is our Florida State. This is CMSB, and you should want to be the best version of yourself every day, and that's what we preach. We talk about growth a lot, on and off the field. I have a handbook, with set rules and expectations that I want the guys to follow. They're not hard to do. But, it does take a certain person, a certain individual to stay up to date with the things that we're doing. Now, in Division III, I can't force guys to do everything that the Division I level guys can do. But what I can do is recruit guys that want to do those types of things. Guys that want to be successful in the classroom, guys that want to work out on a regular basis, guys that want to take care of their bodies, guys that are going to do the right thing on campus, guys that are going to treat women the right way. They're going to do all the right things. And we talk about that on a regular basis. And, I've been really, really lucky that I've been successful in bringing in, really, really, really good individuals that happen to be very, very good baseball players as well. And they've bought in, they love it. I think the triggering point was when they started to see that success, and now they realize what they can do and where we can go, and what this philosophy and what this culture really, really can do for not just them individually, but for us as a group.
So, we're speaking of the roster now. Let's break it down a little more in depth. So, throughout your years, you've been able to acquire a lot of talent within each draft class, recruiting class. I'm sorry. You always, seem to have a bunch of contributors within that class. Think of, your transfers alone. Anthony Nacero, Amir Natowski, Zachary Saunders are constant contributors. Your rising senior class, it's highlighted Matt DeNorcia, Ross Bartziokis, Jordan Perry-Kaz. I mean, you got Pedro, Dan Blake, Matt Albert. I mean, it's crazy. And then your rising junior class now coming up, Pete Sanderson, Michael Crisanti, Jake Blindstrom, Eric Zimmerman, Nick Saranzak. The list goes on and on. I mean, these guys who I named are constant contributors. I mean, it's not like they're just making up the roster. You have the biggest team on campus, but a lot of these players are constantly in the lineup making an impact. How do you find these players each year, whether it's, a group of 5 or a group of 7, and be able to get that many contributors within, a recruiting class?
Mm-hmm. Well, coming from Stack, I did a lot of recruiting with Stack, helping out the recruiting coordinator and doing a lot of different things. But I really haven't changed, what I was doing at the D2 level. I've been pretty much brought what I was doing at the D2 level here. The only thing I can't do is offer a scholarship, and there's obviously different timelines and different things, different NCAA rules and regulations. But I really haven't changed anything. I'm going out there. I'm recruiting the best players I possibly can that I think will be good fits for College of Mount St. Vincent. I think the majority of our, not just our starting lineup, but I'd say a big part of our team could play Division II baseball pretty easily. The cool thing that, the good thing about these guys, the great thing about these guys is that they knew what they were coming into. When I took over, Team SV was in a lull. I think there was success a few years back with some good recruiting classes and a lot of good things going on. And it kind of hit like a little lull where, there wasn't a lot of guys coming in. There wasn't a lot of energy. Obviously the win-loss record wasn't so great. So these guys were coming in understanding, hey, I'm going to get the opportunity to play. I'm going to get the opportunity to make a difference, and do something special. And that's kind of what I was selling them on. I said, you're going to have a young coach who's excited, who's, fired up to develop this program and make it into a winner. And not just a winner, but win championships, that's our goal every year. The first 2 years, obviously you didn't see it in the win-loss record, the win-loss column, but the third year you did, and it's only going to get better. That third year, they're all freshmen. They're all freshmen and sophomores. This year they all would have been sophomores and juniors, and the majority of the guys, not everybody that's playing, but the majority of the team was in that group. And I think, to get the good talent now, I think now we really need to continue to win. We need to continue to, just do the right things and do our part. I guess the culture is a big selling point on the recruiting end too. When I bring a student athlete in my office, we're just not talking about baseball, and it's more about developing the individual as a person into a man, and doing the right thing in the classroom, doing things. And I tell them, if you're not going to do those things, you're not going to play here very long, or you'll be watching a lot of baseball. And I hold everybody accountable, and they bought in, but I have had a lot of luck, getting some really good guys to come here and play, and it's showing.
For sure. And speaking of that, like you said, you kind of touched on it a bit. Unfortunately, 2020 was cut a bit short, but 2019, most conference wins since 2011. You had 9. You went 9-9, which was able to get you into the playoffs. First playoff appearance since 2014. How does it feel? You like you've said in this interview, you've preached on building it from the bottom up. How did it feel to see that success finally reach a point where you guys were able to make the postseason and see that translation from, okay, I'm doing the recruiting, I'm doing the off-field stuff. Now it's showing while we're playing the game.
It was definitely one of the coolest things I've ever done. in baseball, all my life, all my career in baseball. I think, all the stuff that I did individually was great. It was fun, but it's completely different. When I took this job, I knew it was going to be a challenge. I knew there was a lot of hurdles. I knew there was a lot of work to be done, but I didn't look at it as that. I looked at it as an opportunity. I looked at it as an opportunity to come in, make a difference, make a change, and do something special where, it's been difficult in the past few years to do. Many people told me not to do it. Many people told me to hold up and wait and that I'd be able to, get some jobs and do different things. And I was more interested in taking a program and rebuilding it and making a mark and building a winner than just taking over a team that's been good or average or has been there. I mean, and going back to your question, it was probably one of the coolest feelings in the world that I've ever had when we made the playoffs. We actually came home from a game. We were waiting out here in the locker room to watch the result of a game to see if we were in or out. And I don't remember what part of what it was or what was going on, but once we got in, we were really excited about it. And like I said, it's all about the guys that we got here. They're doing some special things. They're doing it right, and it was definitely up there and one of my top favorite feelings and things that I've experienced.
That's awesome. And speaking of, the success on the field, success off the field, and saying field a bunch of times, there has to be some sort of field update around here somewhere, right? I know we've had the progress of building our field close to campus, finally somewhere to call home. Do you have any update what's going on with the field situation for everybody out there?
I have been told, I know our AD, Phil Stern, has been speaking with everybody who's in charge of putting the field together and all that kind of stuff. He was told that it should be ready when the guys get back in the fall. I know we hit some speed bumps last year. I know that was the game plan kind of last year going into the spring too. But he's been told that, it's going to be ready. So I think, I'm excited about it. It's something that everybody in our program is excited about. It's a great spot. It's a great location. It's going to be awesome for practice. It's going to be awesome for games. It's going to be awesome for the student body. I expect to, have a successful season next year and create some buzz and create some fun on campus. I think that'll be good. So, we're really looking forward to getting out there and being able to, for me, the most important thing is practice. I've said that to you. I don't know how many interviews I've said that. Anything's better than, practicing in a gym, or just around the field. And the one key thing I always say is, hey, you take a team that's starting to have success and you put us on a baseball field to practice, think about how much better we're going to be.
Of course.
So we're excited about it. We're looking forward to it, and we're ready to get on there as soon as it's ready to go.
There we go. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully we do have a home field coming next year. And just before we end this, speaking of next year, there's a lot of unknown going on with the world, and spring is really far away. But in a perfect world, we have a full season in 2021. What are your expectations for the baseball team?
Expectations are the same as every year. Our goal is to win a championship. We know that now it's the first couple of years, the goal is always to win a championship. I know it's kind of like the same safe answer for everybody to say. But that's got to be the first step. That's the next step. We made the playoffs. Last year we made the playoffs. We proved that we belong. We proved that we have some of the best talent in the conference. I believe that we've gotten better this past year with players that came in and the development of the players we currently have in the roster. I think we become a much better again with the recruits that we have coming in for next season and the development we'll have with the players that we currently have on the roster. And I think, it's time to take a next step. It's going to be competitive. Our conference is very competitive. A lot of teams are getting better because there's a lot of seniors that are going to be coming back. So it's going to expand the rosters, and some teams are going to be able to hold on to some of their better players. So will we. But it's going to be competitive. It's going to be fun. And, I'm really looking forward to getting these guys back and just getting to work. The goal is always to win a championship, but we preach every day, just competing every day. You know, we're not going to sit there. We don't have meetings and sit there and say, we're winning a championship. We're doing this. We sit down and we break things up and set goals, short-term goals, you know, long-term goals, individual goals, team goals, different things like that pile up and lead us to a championship. So, you know, my expectation is to go deeper into the playoffs than we did last year and make a run at it. You know, and I think if you ask anybody on the team, they believe we could win championships just as much as any other team in the conference.
There you go. So there you have it, guys. John, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. I know we've been trying to do this for a while now, so thanks for coming on. And looking forward to seeing you guys play again next year.
Yeah, man. Fired up. Thank you. Appreciate it. Roll Fins.
All right. Have a good one.